Thank you all for joining today's discussion on delivering truly clean hydrogen with 24/7 carbon-free energy. Before I begin, I'd like to inform you that the workshop will be recorded. We will have approximately 45 minutes discussion today, but we will leave some time at the end for Q&A. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat as we speak. So our focus is on the critical role of clean hydrogen in the global energy transition, but also on the importance of a strong emission accounting system for grid connection. When it comes to clean hydrogen, a robust body of research consistently identifies strong emission accounting system for grid-connected electrolysis that considers three main pillars: additionality, deliverability, and hourly matching. And these three pillars can ensure truly low or zero emitting hydrogen projects. There is a vivid ongoing debate on these principles, and some believe that if too regulated, clean hydrogen will be too expensive. On the other hand, if there is not enough regulation, we may end up subsidizing hydrogen projects that may result in increased net emissions. The bottom line is, we all want hydrogen to support the global decarbonization. And we are eager to learn more about these today from our panelists and engage in a very meaningful discussion. We hope that you find this webinar informative and thought-provoking as well. Let me then introduce our great panelists for the day and kick off the discussion. We have with us Killian Daly, Executive Director at EnergyTag, Rachel Fakhri, Senior Advocate, Natural Resources Defense Council, Daniel Esposito, Senior Policy Analyst at Energy Innovation, and Wilson Riggs, PhD candidate at Princeton University. So welcome to all of you. And let me kickstart immediately a discussion with Killian. Killian, I know that you have a presentation that you want to share. Can you start telling us a little bit more about the definition and the importance of the three pillars, and also the ongoing debate at EU level, but also at US level? Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. Let me know if you can't see my slides. So I'm Killian, I'm Executive Director at EnergyTag, which is focused on the next generation of clean electricity carbon accounting. Previously, I did work in the hydrogen sector for a number of years, focused specifically on this topic of three-pillar implementation in the European Union and across the world. So bringing that kind of perspective there as well to hopefully clarify a few points in this presentation. So first of all, as has been mentioned already, they're the three pillars. What we mean: grid-connected electrolysis, hourly match, deliverability, backed up by new / additional supply. And that is obviously, something that is very much aligned with the principles of the compact, the 24/7 compact, of which EnergyTag is one of the members. This is the fundamental basis of really clean electricity when there's new load like hydrogen coming onto the grid, and I know the experts will cover in detail why this is important from an emissions perspective later on. Just to give an overview of what's going on around the world, this is not just a topic in the United States. It's very much a global topic. Anywhere where hydrogen is going to be produced at large scale, the EU will be three-pillar hydrogen after a transition phase by 2030. All renewable hydrogen produced and imported into Europe, I think it's a very important point, will have to meet these three criteria. And that sets like a first, let's say, international standard for what it means to be truly renewable hydrogen. There is a transition phase to the hourly tracking, which is out to 2030. That's a bit unfortunate, but it's for a number of reasons, including the fact that the EU's legislation for hourly tracking actually needs to be changed and amended, and that will take a bit of time. The United States has no such regulatory block. It's really important. The US this can happen more or less today. And obviously deviations in the United States would be more serious, as the US has no carbon price at a federal level, has less clean grids in general, and a larger subsidy there for the hydrogen. A couple of points around after the European rules were announced. Hydrogen Europe actually, which represents the EU hydrogen industry, said the rules can be met. They're strict, but they can be met. And that's in their public statements after the release of the Delegated Act. We were part of helping put together a progressive industry coalition in Europe with the likes of Iberdrola and EDP and Google, who asked for these three pillars to secure the role of hydrogen in a European energy future. And actually, project announcements have increased since the release of this delegated act, and a kind of a sign that this can happen absolutely, and this can be done in practice. Just to take a step back and more broadly, the 24/7 movement is actually something that is much broader than the hydrogen sector, even if that is a great initial example. So governments like the US government have a 24/7 target for their energy procurement. The UK's hydrogen standard is requiring 24/7. And other governments around the world as well are implementing regulations using this approach. Energy experts, so there's many models out there now showing that this is the best way forward for grid decarbonization and defining clean energy, from the IEA, Princeton, who are here today, and TU Berlin. A number of civil society organizations have signed on to letters, both in the US, like the NRDC on the call today, and in the European Union, calling for 3-pillar clean hydrogen. So that's a really important voice as well, as they want to make sure that the hydrogen we produce is clean and there's no shortcuts taken. System operators as well in Europe have called for this approach in general to better decarbonize our grids. And obviously there's the compact. I don't probably need to explain that, but there's 118 companies who've signed up to the principles introduced on the last slide. Just in terms of feasibility, maybe to touch as well on my own experience in the sector, absolutely the 3 pillars are possible in industry. Industry companies have signed letters in both the US and Europe saying so. There's examples of projects, 2 listed here, that are going to be doing this and that have announced that they're going to do, follow the real load of clean energy production as it's supplied on an hourly basis. So it's absolutely possible. Electrolyzers are flexible. I've worked on electrolyzers myself where we tested that flexibility. And I point here as well to some peer-reviewed data on the flexibility of various electrolyzer types. Hydrogen supply can also be firm with hourly matching. It doesn't mean that you have to turn off your downstream plant if you're doing hourly matching. Not at all. You can have very high capacity factor renewables, things like geothermal going up to 100%, or oversizing your wind to make sure you get really high capacity factors. You can also do things like storing hydrogen or the electricity. You can rely on existing production, which is going to be the case in many, many applications that will be replacing a bit of current grey hydrogen production. On the costs of this, there's going to be much more later from the other panelists, but I thought I'd like to just share a few things here around the feasibility to clarify some points. In terms of the tracking, this is another key aspect. We need to be able to track this electricity properly on an hourly basis. And absolutely, that is also very much possible. It's being done all over the world today. So there's millions of megawatt hours already tracked on an hourly basis right now, from obviously leading organizations, as you can see around the map. And actually countries like Taiwan only allow tracking of electricity on a national basis. And that's been the case for many years there. So, these systems are in existence, they're technically proven, and already at scale around the world. So, I think that also is a key point to keep in mind. We can do the tracking right. And obviously in the US, which is kind of more of the focus of today's conversation, even if the principles apply globally, hourly RECs required for that tracking. So renewable energy certificates, they're already available across the US. Providers like MRETs, PJM are already offering this service today, and therefore can offer it straight away for hydrogen as well, as long as the hourly data is provided by the production and consumption devices. EnergyTag obviously has a voluntary standard for hourly tracking and can help harmonize approaches in the United States if required. So that is it from me. I hope it's been a useful introduction, and I'll pass it back to Irina.